I'm down here in the test gardens with Kevin Vaughn. And Kevin, we know you've over the years of being this breeder extraordinaire of sempervirens, but you breed lots of other things too. For instance, iris.
Oh yes, nothing with pollen is safe in my yard. But these have been something actually I played with as a child in Massachusetts, and now that I'm back in iris growing country here in Oregon, I can play with them again, and it's been such fun. So
right, and these are not your. We're used to like the big, tall, bearded iris in the Northwest, but these it's a different story with these.
That's right. The dwarf and median irises are bearded iris, like the tall bearded. They have a beard on the falls, like the tall bearded, but they're much smaller, and so they start to bloom very early. In fact, here in my garden, the miniature dwarfs, which is the smallest ones, up to 8 inches tall, start blooming in March, and they bloom for about a month to 6 weeks. And then the next size up, the standard dwarfs, which are 8 to 16 inches tall, start blooming. They bloom again for about probably 3 or 4 weeks. And then the next stage up are the intermediates, miniature talls, and border irises that are all 16 to 27 inches tall, but have different size flowers, different size stems, and different times of bloom. So by growing dwarf and median iris, though, you can have bloom for probably 2 to 3 months, which is very good.
Oh yeah, that's a nice long bloom time.
And people don't seem to know about these. They're like people know about tall bearded iris.
Right.
We've all been to Shriners in May and seen the glorious blooms there,
right.
And they're very lovely plants. But most Americans have a much smaller garden now, and so the dwarf and median irises fit in more with the new American landscape. You can stick a clump of these dwarf irises almost in anywhere.
Right.
They're very vigorous. They're very hardy. They were bred from an iris called Iris pumila that grows wild in the Alps.
Oh wow!
So it's we're talking a plant that can survive -30 Fahrenheit.
Right.
Very hardy. And so that pumila parent has made these hybrids much more hardy as well, and very vigorous. You get lots of bloom in a small area. So like this clump here, it was just a couple of rhizomes planted last year, and it's already a little clump all of its own. So.
Right, because sometimes on those tall bearded you have a lot of foliage and then some flower up top, but the compact habit is great with these.
And I find that the tall bearded's a little more fussy. They don't want to be mixed in with other perennials as easily as these guys, whereas some of these you can put them in the mixed perennial border, even put mulch on them. They don't seem to care. Right. They're just fine.
And then you can take the water needs that some other perennials around them, or
yeah, I mean I tend not to give them as much as probably a daylily might get.
Right.
But
so run them on the drier
yeah.
side.
So like things like I grow a lot of these with penstemon. Penstemon like a fairly dry soil and drainage. So yeah, and these irises also want some drainage. So I grow them in raised beds like this one here, and they're really happy.
So when you're breeding and crossing, what are you looking for traits in an iris?
Okay, so first of all, the plant has to be good. So like this particular seedling here, I'm very happy with because, as I said, I just planted one rhizome of it last year. I already have a clump, so it's a vigorous grower. That means in someone else's yard, it's also going to be a happy camper. The flowers have to be pretty. I mean, so I'm looking for ruffled petals, really good intense colors, and something that we haven't seen before maybe.
Right.
Like this one, there was an older one that was a navy blue. It was about the same size, but this one has a black spot on the falls in addition to that navy blue color.
Right.
So here's a new little twist. This one has more ruffles. It's a little bit better plant.
All of this information, you actually have a new book out.
Right, yeah. So I was feeling bad for these guys because, they just don't get the publicity that the big ones do. So, and there never has been a book on these guys. So I sat down a couple of years ago and penned out a book, and it should be out, I think now July. Everything's been COVID affected.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Including this book, which was could be printed in China, and so that's a problem these days when China's closed down. And so the delay has made it should be out in July now rather than this month.
And somebody that wants to pre-order it and get their hands on a copy for it.
Right.
Comes
And,
out.
so-
Where can they go to?
Yes, Amazon is selling it, so
Okay.
you can get there. They're taking pre-orders already. So
And then what is the title of the book?
it's called Dwarf and Median Irises, Jewels of the Iris World. And they really are jewels. I mean, and sort of unknown jewels right now,
Right.
too.
So if you're looking for something different and new in the iris world and glean all of this great information that Kevin has, make sure you go check out and get a copy of the book for your own growing pleasures and start looking for these great varieties to start showing up in the marketplace. So Kevin, it's always a pleasure to be down here and to see all of these amazing things that are yet to come.
Thanks so much, Ryan.